who's pretty much done growing in terms of length and maybe his pectoral flipper size and his dorsal fin size. He's still gaining weight, so he's still gaining mass. We don't have to measure his length and his body parts every so often like we do with McConnell. So, you saw that happening back there. They did a little bit with Corky, and then right now what we're doing this afternoon, well, there's a salmon, by the way. He's gonna put it in his mouth. Is he playing with it? Yes, okay. So if you wanna know what we feed the animals here, obviously killer whales are the top predator in the ocean. They eat all different types of prey. Sometimes penguins. Mike's gonna show you his little salmon right there. Now all the whales they get about 2 or 3 salmon a day, depending on how big the salmon are each day. And that's a very small percentage of their daily diet. They get a mixture of herring, mackerel, sardines, capelin, and depending on the species and availability at the time of the year. And so that variety allows us to give them all the different nutrients they need that might be found in certain types of fish and not in others. So just like you guys eating a balanced diet, we do the same thing with the whales here. To point out, when we feed the animals here, is amongst all 8 killer whales, we go through roughly 1,000 pounds of fish a day just right here with the whales. So throughout the entire park, we can go through anywhere from 3 to 5,000 pounds of fish a day. And that's restaurant quality fish. We have to source it from sustainable sources around the world, and it has to be of a very high quality, but sometimes even better than what you're getting in a restaurant, because we're under obviously high standards for the animals here, and we want to provide them with the best. So we constantly have, every week we have a delivery of fish. On site in the park, we can house about 14 days worth of fish, and then there's a larger off-site commercial freezer where we keep our bigger bulk of the animals' food, and we go off of that, and that gets supplied as we are acquiring fish throughout the year. Okay, so I'm pretty sure the session we're working on with Ike this afternoon is you did see him just get measured. And if you don't mind, can I have you pull the background mix down just a little bit? Thank you. I want to be able to hear them blow their whistle. Very good, Ike. Now, throughout the day here, you guys have come before in the past, and you guys have seen our presentations, but our jobs, even when you guys aren't sitting out here in the stadium, we're almost always interacting with the whales in some way, shape, or form. Now, it could be something like you guys saw in the Skywalk, where we're doing something that's a medical procedure, or finding out more information about the whales. We call those husbandry behaviors, and those are all the different things that the whales know to help participate in their own health care. Other types of sessions that we're doing out here would be interacting, playful ones, just hanging out with them, building our relationship with the animals. And then other ones might be learning something specifically new. So almost like a very pinpointed, targeted behavior that we're trying to work on and train. Now with Ikaika this afternoon, we're working on what, in terms of just training, we call it discrimination. And what that is basically being able to focus his attention and do different behaviors. And it's kind of a complex thing, but the one thing I want to point out is, you see the long white pole that Arion's holding now. On the end of that is a very small swim bead, like a lane marker from a swimming pool. We call those targets, because those allow us to have the animals focus their attention on that space in their environment. And traditionally, and most oftentimes, we're having them touch their rostrum or the front of their face to that bead. Now we can have them target any part of their body to that target pole, and we will do that depending on the behavior that we're working on. So, targets are very important, especially with killer whales. On smaller animals, targets end up being your hand. If you have a dog at home, sit, stay, shake, your hand's right here. I'm tall, but I still can't get my hand 21 feet in the air to help focus a 10,000 pound killer whale to come touch. Now I can use my hands for small, close-in behaviors, so those target holes become very important. The funny thing about that is when you're learning something new with a target hole, it's very important that you work in other behaviors that the whale already knows, or the animal knows. Because it kind of becomes like that one famous wizard who casts a spell with the wand. The animal tends to remember the last behavior they learned on that target hole. So, but I gotta make sure to face this way. The weather's playing havoc with our system right now. What we have to ensure is, as we teach new behaviors, is that we mix those different behaviors in, and that's what we're working on with Ike right now, because he's a smart boy, and when he sees the target poles come out, he's like, oh, we're working on that new thing that I'm really good at, so I'm only gonna do that. So we have to really make sessions focus on, hey buddy, watch the hand signal that Caitlin's asking you, remember that. And even though you see the target pole, we want you to remember the behavior you're doing. So that's all part of that discrimination. So she's going back and forth, I believe, from what we call a back dive. Which one did you ask? Belly breach. He breached, but he did it on his side. So, you could almost, could be good. So, in the training and the nuts and bolts of how we interact with our animals, everything that we do for them is basically positive reinforcement. When the whales do something correct, we're throwing a party for them. It could be giving them a fish. It could be jumping around, clapping, giving them a back rub, yelling them play with their toys, let them play with the other whales, giving them an opportunity to do other behaviors that they like. So for some of you, you know, it might be in weather like today, curling up on the couch and reading a book or watching a movie. That can be very rewarding for somebody. For other people, it might be, I want to go hiking for 12 hours and be out of breath when I'm done, because that's the most exciting thing for me. You see that personality across the whales too. Some of our whales would choose to use part of their reinforcement in terms of being very active and doing high energy stuff. And some of our other whales, for their reinforcement, would rather just hang out and you hold their flipper. So we have that variety of how we interact and reward the animals. And what you're seeing there with Ikaika is, even though he did the wrong reach, so to speak, as opposed to what we asked for, we can still draw attention that he did something different other than that last behavior, that back dive that we've been working on. And that's a little bit more of an advanced, there we go, we went back to, that's what the belly breach should look like on the perimeter. And he's got that one down, but when we ask him to do it in the center, then he goes into autopilot and goes back to the behavior he's always doing. But one training concept that we can do is what we call, you know, differential reinforcement of other behavior. So as long as he's doing something different, I can take a chance or the opportunity to reward that and draw attention to that, to, hey, you're thinking, you're trying something different. The biggest key that we try to get across with all of our animals and our trainers who are interacting with the animals is that mistakes are okay. In human behavior, we've all grown up being told, no, 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 no. Let's see what we get this time. That was it. Good boy. I heard the whistle. There's a little clapping, a little spastic hands from Caitlin, and some excitement there, and you got the boy. So it's not quite, it's a different aspect when you see it in this setting as opposed to when the music's going and the crowd is cheering and going on. But even in we're doing our presentations throughout the day, this type of work is happening and these type of interactions are happening with our animals while we do our presentations. So in a presentation, we could be out there working a brand new behavior, trying to tweak or improve on a behavior that the animals already know. And for the most part, you guys won't even know what we're doing. You guys will now, because you guys have been here and you're hearing us talk about it. So every interaction we do with our animals is very key and critical to our relationship with them and our ability to provide them with the stimulus and the enrichment and the health care that we can provide the animals here. So we are, like I said in the very beginning, we're almost always interacting with our whales. We do give them downtime, and we want them to be whales and interact with each other. And so you'll see us move the whales around from pool to pool, they'll be in different social groupings and interacting with each other in different ways. And so just like you guys might interact differently with your parents versus your colleagues versus your friends, we will see that interaction change across the whales, and depending on how we have the social groupings mixed up. Right now, Ike has been hanging out with his best buddy, Corky, who was also in the back if you guys were up in the skywalks and saw those measurements happen. All right, so Ike's gonna come out and do a little bit of show off. So we're hoping he's gonna come up, prop up on his pectoral flippers and vocalize and slide across all at the same time. Good boy. And often people were asked, well, how is it that you... there we go. We are often asked about building that relationship with these animals and building that trust and that history with them. One of the best ways that we have the trainers and our animal ambassadors build their relationships with these animals is by having them go through the training process of teaching that animal a brand new behavior. That whole learning process builds a bond and a trust, and it really shows the intuition from the trainer and from the animal on how they're working together in a respectful interaction that allows them to build upon that and get that success. And now she just switched the discrimination part of this session. So now she's looking for Ike to do just a regular jump, which we call a bow, which he actually just did. So that was very good. So she asked the behavior, she had the target pull out, and Ike likes to have a challenge with that and sometimes go into that backwards jump or that side reach. So even though it's a very minute thing, that from this perspective out here, it's a very big jump for Ike out there, that he's focused, he's paying attention, he's staying on task, and he's discriminating between all the signals and not just going on autopilot from behavior to behavior. How deep is it? Let me get back where the mic is on. There we go. The question was how deep the pool. This pool is 36 feet deep. 36. The two pools in the back that you can see through the set pieces are 20 feet deep. And then those connect to the underwater viewing pool, where you guys hopefully had a chance to go to or get away from the rain to watch the whales. That one's 30 feet deep. So the question was, how much does Ikaika weigh? Now, him and Ulysses, our other large male killer whale, have been kind of in a competition with each other. Ulysses was historically our largest whale at 10,000 pounds. And it fluctuated from 9,600 to sometimes 10,200 pounds. But Ike, a growing boy, and wanted to have some competition, he decided to go to 10.3. So him and Ulysses go back and forth between who's the big boy on campus. So you're gonna get to see all of them, just like he was slid out on the front part with Caitlin. He's gonna come right out here in front of you, so this will be a good photo op. He's coming up in 3, 2, 1. That's a handsome boy right there. Are we switching to Cork at all? Eventually? Okay. I can talk to you, yeah. So I wasn't, so the question was, there was a gray whale that was rescued back in the late 90s. Her name was, they called her JJ. She was a success story in terms of SeaWorld going out and, well, we've had many successful rescues and rehabilitations and releases, but JJ was unique in the sense that that was the first gray whale. She was very young. I didn't work here at the time when it happened, but she was rehabilitated in the show them a close-up pool over there, and then she was released. And I think because of the rain, the exact date is going off my brain right now, but I can find it out for you. But yeah, no, she was a very, not very many people have heard about her, but as most of you are aware, if you guys are in Southern California, we do a lot of marine mammal rescue and avian and aquatic rescue here at the park, between sea turtles, thousands of birds, sea lions, and cetaceans. An interesting thing about cetaceans, if you want to, we can go into it a little bit too in terms of, their rescue ability or their success rate. Sea lions, like seals and sea lions, they spend half their time on the beach anyway. So in terms of any healthcare, whether it was your healthcare or an animal's healthcare, the sooner you can get to the animal, the higher success rate you're going to have. So sea lions, birds, usually you can get a hold of them really quick and get a chance to be very proactive in their rehabilitation and henceforth release. Cetaceans, unfortunately with cetaceans, they don't spend any of their time on the beach. They're not supposed to. So by the time an animal or a whale or dolphin is on the beach, their illness or whatever might be ailing them is pretty far progressed. And we've had many success stories, but again, they are a lot more challenging, not only just because of the size and the ability to get to them quickly. So that is one aspect to keep in mind in terms of when you see things about animals that are stranded, especially whales and dolphins. Again, I've worked with many dolphins and common dolphins that have been successfully rehabbed and released, but again, they're a lot more challenging than, say, like a sea lion or a bird or even like a sea turtle. It's just sure logistics of being able to have them get access to them quickly. All right, good question. It looks like, there she is. So she graced us with her presence now. Corky came flying out here. You guys have all seen Corky before, right? Some of you? Yes, Corky is out here. She is our oldest killer whale. She's affectionately known as our trainer of trainers. She was the first whale that I got to learn how to work with killer whales with. There she is, very beautiful. Ooh, that was a nice one. What I want to point out, what we're working on with her before it starts dumping on us too much, is what that behavior is we call that a porpoise. She's swimming real fast around the perimeter, and we want her to come out, skim out of the water, take a breath if she needs to, and then skim right back into the surface. The funny thing that her and Shoot are doing right now is they're adding some flair to the tail end of it by picking their tail flukes out and being all funny with it. It's fine, but ideally we trained it to keep the tail flukes in the water. So that first one she did, I couldn't see her flukes in that one. Did she say that? Oh, you preemptively did it, got it. When she came out on this one, I saw her flukes come flying out. And then on the second one, she kept them in. So obviously the trainers were going to draw attention to that one and reward that one, and they just tried going the other direction. Here we go again. Not bad. A little bit of tail fluke. Oh, you see the flare at the end? So that's what we're working on, is trying to get her to keep her tail in right there. Very good, Corky. Yes, let the girl hear it. And these little fine details and these fine tunings that we're doing, that's what we're doing all day long and watching their behavior, is looking at these slight different things as the whales are interacting and moving around their environment, right? And one of the fun sayings that I learned when I was a very young trainer, like beginning of my career, was that the only thing that two trainers can agree upon is that the third one is doing it wrong. Okay? There she is. Hi, Cork. And the reason I say that is because there's many ways to train a single behavior. So, any teachers out there? Teachers? Okay. Parents? Babysitters? Coach? Okay? There's no one way to teach someone to read. There's ways that might be faster than others and ways that might be slower. But those individual plans are going to work differently for different personalities and different people. So the same thing with training and training animals. You have to tailor your lesson plan to the animal in front of you and what that animal is showing you and what that communication is working. So some of our best trainers are the ones that can adapt and pivot and adjust their training plan based on the observed behavior that they're seeing from the whales and what drives that success and looking for that motivation. So just like coaches, what is that motivating thing? Teachers, what's that motivating thing? Parents, the same thing. That's what we do all day long when we're interacting with our animals, is finding that motivation, how to increase their engagement and their drive and all that, do all those fun whale stuff, all the way down to those fine, minute little details in terms of flukes out of the water, in the water. In the grand scheme of things, it's not a big deal. And we don't make a big deal out of it other than we're trying to fine tune that behavior. So it does become a challenge for the animals too, and it can be fun because, again, like we said earlier, all those different types of rewards or reinforcements, some of the animals really want to be mentally stimulated, like they want hard questions asked that we see. So we, again, tailor all those lesson plans or those training sessions to the individual animals. We got a big one coming from her. V-spin. What a good girl. It's amazing. So you can see, even as our oldest killer whale, she's still firing on all cylinders. She's a great animal to interact with and work with. And again, each whale has her own unique personality. And I'm glad you guys are able to come in on a day like today. Thank you for coming in this weather. So I appreciate you guys coming out and sticking with it, because we're out here no matter what, because the whales need us every day and they need you guys here too. So we appreciate you guys coming and your interest in the animals and how we interact with them. And again, really appreciate it coming out on this lovely San Diego weather day that we have. And I think it's going to start dumping again tonight. So again, thank you for that. We're going to keep playing with the whales, but I also want to let you guys, I'm going to get off of this thing. I'm going to hang out up here if you guys have questions. If you guys are ready for your stamps, before your stuff gets wet, make sure you get your stamps on the way out so that you have your, rain's on, it's raining. So that you get your credit for showing up and having to listen to me talk. So again, I appreciate you guys hanging out. My name's Mike. If you have any questions, I'll be hanging around. If not, enjoy the rest of the lovely weather here at SeaWorld San Diego. Take care, guys.